What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Kaleb Davis, and we have notes. But before we get started, I'd just like to announce that the 2024-2025 NBA season kicked place yesterday. We had two marquee matchups with the Knicks versus Celtics and an absolute slaughter. And then a more, I guess I'd say, even peel game with the Lakers versus Timberwolves, which was a very fun product for me. Finally getting to see the Lakers win in a game on opening night for the first time in since 2016, so about 8 seasons. So pretty much the entire Bron era and beyond. They haven't won an opening game, so it was pretty refreshing to see them come out with a win. Going solo today, we had some scheduling issues, so no biggie there. But yeah, excited just to get going and to kind of break down the games a little bit and tell you guys what I kind of noticed in both of these matchups and what you should kind of look out for moving forward in the season. So I just wanted to start with the Knicks versus Celtics game, which, like I mentioned earlier, this was a complete ass whooping. The Celtics dominated both ends of the floor. The game was a blowout. Like after the first quarter, and then when a team comes out and shoots like that, there's not really anything you can do. Like you could have put anybody up against that Celtics team last night and they were going to win. Because if you're going to come out and shoot 61 threes and make over 50% of them or near 50%, especially with their starters, there's just not a lot you could do. It was ring night for the Celtics, so they came out. And you know how that usually goes with teams on ring night. You usually come out with a bunch of energy and excitement and I guess hangover from the championship, or you come out determined and ready to go. You see it all the time. Like when teams come out and get blown out after going through the ring ceremony. So you never really know what to expect. But I think that's a scary sign from the Celtics that this is how they decided to start their season. But for starters, I'm just going to touch on both teams on offense and kind of how each team maneuvered. I'm going to touch a little bit more on the Knicks offense because obviously they have some newer additions like Karl Anthony Towns and just his fit overall. The Celtics kind of did what we expected. They came out and they shot a lot of threes and they drove and kicked the ball and they spaced you out as to be expected. But to start, I thought Jalen Brunson looked pretty well in this game. He only played 22 minutes, but that's because, like I said, it was a blowout. But he did good in his minutes. He was productive. He was scoring against everyone. He struggled a little bit in like his second shifts. It was around the third quarter when he started getting into it. Like him and Jaylen Brown had a little bit of they were going back and forth, and I don't know. I think he kind of got a little frustrated, but he didn't really have a lot of help within the starting lineup. Because OG Anunoby he struggled during the game. He finished 1 for 7. I think he had 4 points. He didn't have a lot of points. He wasn't very productive. Mikal Bridges was struggling up until he started getting it together kind of in garbage time. He started making a few more baskets. But it just wasn't. Their offense did not look very good. Cat was okay, but he was doing a lot of the things which to be expected with him, but they had Drew Holiday on him, and he was just letting Drew Holiday kind of body him up. He'd post him a little bit, but he wouldn't move him. And then he'd shoot like a fadeaway instead of trying to go at Drew Holiday or take him to the basket, or he'd have a small guy on him, didn't want to duck in. But that is to be expected, but it's stuff that you would like to see improved with Cat. I kind of think they should be, and I know it's the first game, and you can't, like, obviously I'm not going to take everything from this game because they're still learning how to play with each other. Guys are still getting it together. But I just felt like the Knicks offense, I felt like it was too spread out. Like about everyone in the starting lineup took the same amount of shots. And I just think the shot distribution needs to adjust a little bit. Like I think Brunson and Cat, obviously that's your two big dogs who need to take the majority of the responsibility. But obviously other guys can chip in. But I wanted to see more out of Cat. That was the biggest thing for me. I wanted to see him get more touches. I wanted to see him do more, especially with, like I said, smaller guys on him. Like they were constantly had Drew Holiday on him or Derek White on him, and then Al Horford just roaming off of Josh Hart, which like we've seen that be used, and it wasn't surprising. But the Knicks should have. I don't know if they stressed to him like ways to kind of beat this coverage, because you kind of just let them put these small guards on you, and you didn't do anything about it. But that's not why they lost this game. The Knicks offense wasn't really a super big issue, and if you watch the start of this game, it was kind of a shootout, and it kind of looked like it was going to be a really good game when it started, because you went the first like couple of, I think like the first 20 points between both teams, like they were shooting like 80 or 90%. Like there weren't a lot of misses. JT came out guns blazing. But it was just a great game overall, for the Celtics at least. But back to the Knicks offense a little bit. One guy that I really want to shout out off the Knicks bench was Miles McBride. He came in the game, and if he hadn't come in shooting the way he did, I think the Knicks, like the score going into at the end of that first quarter, would have been like 17-40 instead of like 29-40, I think it was, or 20. It just would have been horrible. And he looked like a real. I don't want to call it like, yes, he was a bench player, but he looks like a real legit player. Like he's hitting shots over Drew Holiday, Derek White, tough step back threes, fadeaway middies, pull up middies, like fadeaways on the baseline, like just doing everything. And these like the shot profile, those are tough shots. So hats off to him. And then the last thing I kind of wanted to say on this was Mikal Bridges' jump shot. I know you're gonna see that all over Twitter, all over Instagram, all over everywhere, all over ESPN. People talking about what's wrong with his jumper, what's going on, and I genuinely don't think it's something that people should be too worried about. He's always had a funky jump shot, and yes, if he's made a little bit of tweak to it, like I guess it might hurt him in the long run, but let it play out a little bit. Like I'd say give him 10, 15 games, and if he comes out again and he's shooting, 38, 39, 40% from three, who cares? If his jumper looks bad, as long as he's making his shots and able to get them off in time, I'd say give him some slack. Like you saw in that game, he's always had a slow release, so that was an issue a little bit. Like guys could close out before he shoot it, but I just think his confidence was the biggest thing. He's probably in a new situation. You're playing in the Garden for the Knicks. Like it's a hard thing to do. So cut him some slack a little bit, give him some time. But yeah, that's all I really had. And then just as a different differentiator between the Celtics and Knicks, I just wanted to talk about the Celtics generated 61 3-pointers and they made 29 last night, tying the all-time record for most 3-point makes in a game. And then the Knicks had 30 attempts with 11 makes. So just to put that in perspective, the Celtics almost made more threes than the Knicks attempted. So if you had one takeaway leaving this game, is that the Knicks need to figure out a way to, I'd say, up their 3-point volume a little bit, because I felt like they had no chance of staying in the game. And if another team comes out and shoots, that many threes and shoots above 40%, the Knicks won't be able to hang in the game, especially if they're not getting like offensive rebounds or free throws and get into the lines and stuff like that. So just I don't know. I'm not disappointed with how the game looked, because obviously the Knicks are a new and gelling team, but just some things to take away and to look at moving forward. So I had a couple prompts set up for each game, so I'll kind of just go through those, and then I'll kind of give my opinion and my synopsis on what went down. So for one of my points, it was, well, the Celtics just outshoot everyone, because this is a real possibility, and it happened a lot last season. And I think giving those guys another year under their belt and more time to gel and get together is a scary thing. Excuse me. The Celtics had 7 players make threes in last night's game, which is just insane. They have about 5 or 6 guys that are going to shoot above or near 40% from three this season. So right back to where they were last year. That's to be expected. And then everyone in their starting lineup shot over 55% from three, which I thought was a fun fact, something you do not see very often, which just added to my point that they were on top of it last night. And then one of the discrepancies between the teams was the Celtics starters amounted to 113 points, and the Knicks starters had 66 points. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but the final score ended up being a 109 to 132 Celtics win. So the Celtics had 132 points, and their starters scored 113 of that. They outscored the Knicks just alone, which just won't get it done. But I think it's a real possibility that they'll just come out this season and outshoot everyone. And there's going to be games where, Tatum and Jaylen Brown combine for, 10, 11 made threes, and they just blow teams out. And that's just because they're so damn talented. And, I mean, there's not much you can do about that. That just comes down to the roster building. They have a great team that they put out there, and their guys gel really well. They have a lot of talent, and that's why they're a lot of people's favorites. They are the favorites coming into this season. So for my next point, it was Cat, and it's more so just a statement as far as his offensive responsibility and his role on the team. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think he needs to be posting up a little more than he has been, and I guess see how the production goes. Like if he continues to just, instead of like trying to punish smaller players or even bigger players, if he wants to continue just fading away and shooting like fadeaway hook shots and avoiding contact, like if he's making the shots, I mean, you can't really complain about it. But if he's not, you got to figure out other ways. I think his spacing can be a real threat because obviously he's the best shooting big man in the league right now. They got to figure out more ways to generate 3-pointers for him because I don't think I'm looking at it right now. He only took 2 3-pointers, and that's like his main. That's the skill that like sets him apart from other bigs. So I think he has to lean on that a little bit more, just to make himself, I guess, more present in their offense, because that's just the biggest thing. Now moving forward, we have the Knicks and Celtics on defense, and that's where I think the game was really lost for the Knicks. I feel like the trade that they made, bringing in Cat, kind of changed up their identity a little bit because they were kind of known for being this hard-nosed, defensive, gritty team that was always crashing the offensive glass, crashing the boards, would, kill you on the little things during the game, all the physical aspects. And when you bring in a guy like Cat, you kind of, I don't want to say you lose that identity because like I said, it's the first game. Like you can't make your whole opinion on the season based on this one performance, but they kind of got to work towards figuring out what they're going to be under Cat. Like, are they going to still try and be this gritty, defensive, hard-nosed team, or are they going to lean more in on their offense and that the 5-out spacing that they're trying to run, and ball movement, player movement, which they didn't really have in this game. That was another big thing. But one of the key pieces was like I said, the Knicks were amazing on the glass last season. They got killed on the offensive glass tonight. They only had 5 offensive rebounds, so the Celtics 11. But whenever the Celtics got an offensive rebound, it felt like they all surmounted to 3-pointers. Like they get it, tip it out, the guys score. Or they get 2-3 rebounds in a play, the guys score. And that, you can't win a game when you're not shooting when the team's out shooting you and you're just giving them multiple chances at, 3-point looks, especially corner threes. Like you can't give up an offensive rebound and then give up a corner 3. Like stuff like that, you're going to lose a game and you're kind of asking for it. And the Celtics came out, they were solid on defense. I don't really have much to say about them. They looked how we imagined. Jason Tatum was amazing in this game on both sides. I have him on my fantasy team, unfortunately, because, Heat fan, wore my jersey today, trying to wish us some good luck. But he came out confident. His jump shot looked a lot better. He was letting it fly. I think his first 6 or 7 shots were 3-pointers. And usually you don't want to see him just entirely relying on the 3-pointer. 11 of his 18 shots were threes, but they were going in. And shit, if he's gonna shoot 72% from 3 all season, by all means, let it fly, brother. But I don't really see that happening, but it was encouraging to see him come out and look confident, and him and Jaylen Brown just both looking pissed off. They were slighted a lot this season, and it looked like they felt it, and they're trying to make themselves heard. But back to the Knicks front, I thought Cat was pretty bad on defense in this game. I thought he was getting spaced out. Like he looked sometimes lost. Like they'd be running ball screens and he's sagging way back. So yeah, that's why like Tatum was letting it fly from three. Like if they're not gonna be up on the screen and they're just gonna give him the shot, he was just taking it. And that was with every Celtic. Like the Knicks bigs weren't providing him like any. They weren't up there. They weren't providing any pressure. Jericho Sims sagging back just like Cat. So that's something they got to work on moving forward. But all in all, it was a good game from the Celtics, and yeah, as for the Knicks moving forward, you just gotta hope to see improvement. And that's all you can really harp on. Like continue to gel, continue to get better over the season, and I think they'll end up turning it around. Like I mentioned, I think the Knicks are gonna finish in the top three in the East, so I'm not really worried about one game. But moving forward, we had the Lakers versus the Timberwolves, and this game was pretty exciting. The final score was 103 to 110, and it ended in a Lakers W. Now, a few cool moments from this game, like you had the LeBron and Bronny moment when they first checked in, and I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit because I thought it was just exciting. Like even if you're not a fan of LeBron or you're not a fan of Bronny, it was just a cool moment. And I think it probably put a smile on a lot of people's faces when they went to check in. It was just a cool moment. I know the pictures from that when they come out are going to be great. And it's stuff like that you just can't get back. Like checking into an NBA game, like father and son. It's unheard of. And a lot of people, give Bron crap or give Bronny crap. Like Bron forced this to happen, but I can't be mad at it. And I feel like if you are, you're just a hater because it's not affecting you. Nepotism has always been a thing. And I'm not trying to say Bronny didn't earn a lot of the things that he had pushed his way, but you can't be mad at it is all I'm saying. But yeah, I'll kind of break this game down from both teams' perspective, and I'll separate it between offense and defense. So I'm gonna start with the offense again. I thought the Wolves' offense looked pretty bad. There wasn't a lot of ball movement. Like every play, it felt like was an Anthony Edwards pick and roll or ISO at the top of the like either at the top of the key or on the wings. Like the guys weren't doing anything, and everyone was just standing around watching them. And the Julius Randle fit, and like I mentioned, it's a one game. It's only a one game sample size. There's not much to go from here. But that starting front court with Gobert, McDaniels, and Randle looked really bad on offense. Like as far as spacing, because they could just sag off of them, and the paint is just congestion, and this makes things hard for Ant. And that kind of goes into the fact why he was shooting so many threes because he has to work so hard if he wants to get to the rim. Because you have so many non-shooters out there with him, like Gobert, Julius Randle, and McDaniels. Like obviously Gobert's not taking threes, but they made one 3-pointer together. Like he had no spacing out there with him. Mike Conley wasn't giving you anything. He had a really bad game, and it just was a bad look to come out and I don't know your offense to look like that. And obviously you're going against like Anthony Davis and great defender. Put on his DPOY candidate. He was starting the mission yesterday on the mission for DPOY, which you can't be mad at. But their offense just looked bad. Their spacing was bad. There wasn't a lot going on, and I kind of have been talking about this. I mentioned this in a few videos back, but I think Dante should be starting next to Anthony Edwards because of that, just the fact that it gives Anthony Edwards reps as the lead ball handler over the season, so he'll consistently get better. And he started to figure out a little bit against the Lakers in the second half, with just making reads and kicking the ball out and just getting it where it needed to go. But I think Dante having him out there with him, especially if Mike Conley is gonna shoot like that, which isn't gonna happen like that often, but Dante's just Mike Conley's more of a reluctant shooter. And so his fit with Anthony Edwards when you don't have a lot of spacing is not the best. Like I think Dante would provide a lot more space because Dante's just gonna shoot it. He's a garlic. Even if he has a little bit of a contest, he's gonna let it fly. And that's just having a guy who will shoot the ball and he'll probably shoot it at above 40% clip. That just helps I think it helps Ant And I think he's a better player than Mike Conley at this phase in his career. Because being Mike Conley is on the older side, and Dante's a lot younger. He's bigger. He's a better defender, better shooter. Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, their offense did not look the best. I think they definitely need to bring in some more shooting, and they need to figure out a way. I don't know. Like when Nate has the ball, having Randall just space for it, like that's not a recipe for success moving forward. And I think you can say that even off this first game. But on the Lakers front, I thought they looked. One big thing that I've noticed under JJ Redick is just they have a lot more ball and player movement. Like instead of just running, pick and rolls at the top of the key or one or two actions, like everybody's touching the ball on every single play. Like even if it's just a little handoff or like a ball screen, like everyone's doing something, and that helps keep guys involved, keep guys engaged, and their offense just looked a lot more like free flowing. And yeah, they weren't hitting shots, and people are gonna talk about that, but I thought they were getting pretty good looks. Like D'Lo missed, it was 1 for 7, but he had like 4 or 5 wide open threes. Like he's gonna make those majority of the time, or at least around 40% of the time. Like Austin had open threes. Uh, Max Christie had open threes. Like guys are gonna shoot better, so I'm not really worried about that. Anthony Davis though just looked insane in this game. Like I'm gonna read off his stat line. He had 36 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 3 blocks, and he had a 3-pointer. 15 free throws. Like you couldn't ask for more. He looks like a guy in the prime of his career. He looks like a guy ready to come out and take over the season. So that's just exciting to see. And he had hope. Like Rui was contributing. He looked a lot more confident and just playing with his size a lot more. Like he dunked on not Cat. He dunked on Gobert. He dunked on Julius Randle. He was just making a lot of plays. And then LeBron had his stints here and there. Had an okay game, but the Lakers look good. And like I said, this was their first opening night win since 2016. So it's been a long time coming. And yeah, I'm just happy to see the Lakers get a win, start off the season at the top of the West. Hopefully it sticks. But like I said, we got 81 more games to go, so it's a marathon, not a sprint. But one point that I want you guys to take away from this game is kind of the Wolves' lack of spacing and how that's gonna affect them moving forward throughout the season. Because whenever they go up against a team that has a real rim protector that can just kind of play in the paint because they don't have shooters, I think that's when you're going to see their tough games and see them lose a lot of games. Well, that's when they do lose games, that's when it's going to happen. Like when they go up against Wemby, like the Spurs might not be the best team, but he's capable of replicating a lot of the things that Anthony Davis did on the defensive end. Being a rim protector, being able to fly around, guard guys, guard on the perimeter, the way AD was doing. Like he had a few plays where he locked up Ant. Locked up. So yeah, he locked him up. He came out, stepped out there, and took the challenge. But yeah, against guys like Victor, say like when you go up against like Bam, or when you go up any team that has like a real rim protector and other defenders, that's when they're gonna see issues. So something to keep an eye on moving forward. And then on the defensive end, the biggest takeaway that I had, because the Lakers, they were solid on defense, guys were rotating, they were doing what they were supposed to, but the Wolves in that second, it was the second quarter and kind of more so the second half. You could just tell like they look so good pressuring the ball, especially when they had that lineup of when it was Anthony Edwards, what is it? I'm blanking on his name, Shay's cousin, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and then Dante. They were just able to pressure the ball, and they were just they were disruptive, and that's what brought them back in the game and almost helped them win the game. So it's a good sign to see that their defense is still going to be, top notch, and their perimeter defenders, I think they improved. So when you have a lineup like those three, and then Jaden McDaniels at the 4, sometimes like a look like that defense is going to be devastating. And yeah, that's kind of going to have to be where their calling card this season, because they don't have a lot of offense, which was to be expected. But the last thing before we kind of wrap up and get out of here is that I wanted to talk about was the Gobert contract extension. Because last night they announced that he got a 3-year, $110 million extension moving forward. And this is about $36 million per year. So not a terrible contract, I'd say, for a 4-year defensive player of the year player. But it takes him until the age 36. And the one thing that I'll say with this is I kind of thought they were going to wait to give Gobert his contract because they were going to technically – the Wolves were up to lose Naz Reid and Gobert and Randall all this free agency because they're all on 1-year deals. And I kind of thought that was the plan, not to lose them all. Like, that wasn't the plan. But to have that cap space going into the summer, that's kind of what I thought they were doing with the cat trade because they were trying to free up money. But giving Gobert this contract, you kind of lock yourself back into that and Gobert and if you re-sign Randall core or they move him. But I'm just keep an eye on what the Wolves do moving forward. Because if they traded Cat to the Knicks for Randall and Dante, and then Randall leaves for nothing in free agency, and I know it's very, very soon to be kind of speculating on this, but Randall leaves in free agency and they get nothing out of that, and then they don't end up putting another championship team around Anthony Edwards, it's just something to look at moving forward. So I'd say keep an eye on that, but I don't think the contract is terrible. I think Gobert definitely earned it. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. No matter how much stripe he gets, does he deserve 4? That's subjective, but he has them, and there's nothing you can really do about that. But that's really all I have for today. It was exciting to be able to talk some NBA basketball, and I'm looking forward to the NBA season as we continue to progress. I'm going to keep giving you coverage on marquee games and a little bit of specialized coverage on my top teams like the Lakers, the Heat, the Pistons. You're going to hear coverage on them, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you guys so much for today. Please make sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at peerreviewpodcast to stay up to date with our latest episodes and releases. We also personally monitor all of our accounts, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Want us to cover different topics? Did you notice anything in the games that I missed out on? You disagree with any of my points or opinions? Let me know in the comments. But thanks again, and this is the Peer Review Podcast, signing off.